Hey folks, Temple here, and welcome to a special, video. I'm doing a list kind of video. Yeah, it's not normally me doing lists, but I was asked a question a while ago by one of my Twitter followers saying, Templar, what was your favorite game? And to be honest with you, that got me thinking, what is my favorite game? Because to be honest, guys, I've been gaming for nearly 30 years, so I've seen the best and the worst. But today we are going to follow the best in what I like to call my favorite top 10 video games of all time. Now here are the rules. Now this list is opinionated, this is my opinion, so if you don't like it, that's fine. You can put your comments in the comment section on what you think is your best top 10 video games of all time. And also, all series will count because let's be honest guys, if I went with series, they would, flood this list and it'd be a bit unfair, but they'll get their own videos eventually. So let's dive in folks and start this top 10 bonanza off with a bang. Number 10, Crash Bandicoot. Now this game has been one of my childhood favorites. I mean, I used to play it back in the day. I mean, this was the very game that made me, buy PS1. I mean, this game really brought the PS1 to the forefront, and it's fun, quirky, and it's one of those games that you can't help but enjoy. I mean, yeah, the platforming is very hard for its time, but it was a fun game and it was well enjoyable. And with the remaster collection, I'd say this Bandicoot's got more life in it than you think. But yeah, it was one of my favorites from PS1. But this is not the only one from this studio, Naughty Dog. They have another one on this list. So let's move on to the next number. Number 9, Jak and Daxter 2. Now this game is again from Naughty Dog. I mean, Naughty Dog were on point during the late 90s and early 2000s with their games. But Jak and Daxter was like many people, the adult version of Crash Bandicoot, or teen if you want to put it. This game had a lot. It was quirky, it was fun, it was a good platformer, and it also had that open world environment and also with a decent story. But the one thing that set Jak and Daxter apart from many other platformers is this was not afraid to push the envelope in certain areas, such as adult humor, some very lewd moments, and not afraid to have some fun and tongue-in-cheek. It was one of the more funnier games that I played over the years, and I do wish to see Jak and Daxter make a return. But they did get a HD collection in PS3. I'm hoping they do that for PS4. And yeah, Jak and Daxter 2 was a fun, funny game and a good one to enjoy to play if you ever get the chance. So let's move on to number 8. Number 8, Doom 2016. Now this game was a refreshing change from a game series that strayed away from its true path, what it used to be. This game came out in 2016 and it really brought a freshness to nostalgia kind of games. I mean, this game went back to what it was supposed to be, a run and gun shooting gore fest. And there was a story, but a lot of people would go, sorted, I don't care, I just want to get to the killing. And the combat was frenetic, was fast. This was one, in my view, one of not the best games for 2016. I do love this game. This game is being a great breath of fresh air. It was something that the industry had needed. A game that would go back to its roots and show how things are done with a simplistic of movements and game. But yeah, Doom 2006, one of my favorite FPSs of all time. So let's move on to number 7. Number 7, Mortal Kombat series. Now this series has been with me for years. In fact, this was the very series that made me, buy a Sega Mega Drive. So back in the day, I mean, I used to play from Mortal Kombat 1 all the way to 10. This series has been one of my favorite fighting games, of all time. I've played it over, the decades, and it's been one of those games that I always enjoy. And also it had that it factor, that like the gore, the bloody, and also the great combat. I remember a time when in the arcades there would be lines outside of arcades, just to play this game. And this game has had, a lot to do with my childhood with fighting games. I mean, I learned most of my fighting game craft from Mortal Kombat, so yeah, I kind of like Mortal Kombat over Street Fighter, to be honest. But that was not only just because of the fun factor, but also the gore and the crazy techno which you're seeing right now. So anyway, folks, that's Mortal Kombat. Let's head over to number 6. Number 6, Mass Effect 2. Now, among the Mass Effect trilogy and plus Andromeda, which I will not be mentioning because Andromeda was rubbish, Mass Effect 2 in my view was the best version of the trilogy because it had a deep story, lots of characters, and a lot of scenarios that could go either way, for good for you or bad for you. Also, you had the Renegade and Paragon, where they really, affected the game, how you, interact with your characters, interact with your fellow, members of your species and all that. What really set the game apart as well is, like I said, the deep story. This story was deep. I know a lot of people say 3 had a lot of great stories, but I felt 2 what made Mass Effect, the juggernaut that it once was. I felt 1 was a good story, like a good decent story and a good decent game, but 2 to me brought it to the forefront. It brought it to, in my view, the next level. And yeah, it's a shame really how Mass Effect has turned out, but I always will admit that number 2 was, in my view, the best of the bunch. Anyway, let's head off to number 5. Number 5, Dawn of War, Dark Crusade. Now, I've always loved a good RTS, and in my view, this, combined two of my favorite hobbies, 40k and RTSs. And this is where I felt Dawn of War was at its peak, the Dark Crusade series, because you had not only the Necrons, the Tau, the Orcs, the Eldar, and the Chaos. You had all these races vying for one planet, but you also each of them had their own campaign. This is where Dawn of War I felt was at its peak, and where it slumped. I mean, don't get me wrong, number 2 wasn't bad, and number 3, well, let's leave it at that. But I felt that Dawn of War Dark Crusade was, in my view, the best of the bunch, and I felt this is why, I felt Dawn of War should be like this mostly. Well, unfortunately, as we all know, Dawn of War is hitting very hard times. But I do hope that one day we'll go back to this kind of format with a better, graphics and, more streamlined play. But anyway, folks, let's head off to number 4 and see what's next. Number 4, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. Now, I've always loved this series, the whole Metal Gear genre and series, the whole, stealth series. I mean, it was number 1 that got me into this, Metal Gear Solid. But as time progressed, I mean, number 2 was okay. But number 3, I felt, was like the true essence of stealth survival, where you had to, feed off the land, you had to fight, various enemies, you had to choose your battles, you didn't have to go like guns blazing, you had to choose when to fight and where to fight. And the story was quite deep. It was very deep about, patriotism, also, betrayals, and, the sad stories of what happened in the past to lead up to this adventure. And also the thought of vindication, where you have to fight, to clear your name. And also the whole, era of the Cold War. This is quite a good game. It is a very good story, and I do recommend anyone who's a fan of this genre, like stealth genre or survival genre, to really give this game a try. I do recommend it, because out of the whole Metal Gear Solid, franchise, I mean, okay, 5 was okay, 4 was meh, but number 3 I felt was the best. Anyway, folks, let's move on to number 3. Number 3, the Resin Evil series. Come on, guys, you kinda knew this was coming. The Resin Evil series has been on my channel a lot. I've always loved this series. I mean, my very first, outing with Resident Evil was actually Resident Evil 2, and I've never looked back since. I mean, the Resident Evil series has had its ups and downs over the years, but I felt the Resident Evil series, in my view, is the true essence of, a good horror experience. I mean, 2, in my view, was the best version. And you had, Resident Evil 4, which revolutionized the whole genre. But then you have 5 and 6, and oh my god, we will not be talking about those two. And 7 kind of brought it back to where it belongs. The whole horror, scary atmosphere. And that was the thing about it. This was the competitive rival to Silent Hill. I mean, don't get me wrong, Silent Hill was okay, but I felt Resident Evil was more what, akin to me, you had to think your battles in most of the battles. I mean, in the early editions of Resident Evil, plus the remake. I mean, the remake itself shows how good a game can be if it's done correctly. And also with Resident Evil Remake 2 on the horizon, literally coming out next year, so if you're not aware of that, it's coming out next year. I felt that this game was, the series itself was actually pretty good, and it is worth seeing. And now we're heading off to number 2. Number 2, Final Fantasy series. Now this series has been with me for a long time. This is the very series that got me into the JRPG scene, and also RPGs in general. I've always enjoyed, the Final Fantasy series. My first experience of this series was number 8. And as the whole game, progressed, well, the whole series actually progressed, I've kind of enjoyed, most of the iterations. I mean, I've enjoyed, like, most of the series during the PS1 era and some of the PS2 era. It's been a long time since I've seen actually a good Final Fantasy until 15 came out. I mean, 15 in my view kind of, revolutionized the whole Final Fantasy. It brought it back to what it was. All about the story, about like open worlds, enjoying the whole thing, having multiple quests, fighting big bad, scary monsters. Not linear storylines like what 13 is. I mean, God, 13. Ugh. I know people say X2 is bad, but 13 was not the best in my view. And also you got Final Fantasy 14, one if not the best MOBAs at the online games at the moment. But yeah, Final Fantasy has been around with me for a long while, and this series will get a video. This is I think the only one that's going to get a series video on on my favorites. But folks, let's dive into number 1. At number 1, Persona 4. Not expecting that, will you? Yeah, Persona 4 is another JRPG from the Shin Megami series. I've kind of liked Persona 4 because Persona 4 not only is a JRPG, but also it was very more to real life. It was all about, growing up. I mean, when I was growing up, I saw this game and I was a bit, amazed with the anime style and graphics. But what also made this game, one of my favorites, is it was more about real life situation and deep psychology. Yes, this game had a very massive deep psychology on each of the characters about, their growing up problems, whether it's, loneliness or friendship problems or, in our interactive organization or awkwardness or getting on with their lives. It was all about growing up, and what it resonated with me with a lot of stuff that I had been going through in my teen years, and it was quite a good long story. And unlike many games, this game had ridiculous amount of replayability. I mean, you had to replay this game at least 3 times to get all the endings, and this game to me is quite a good game, a very good real slice of life slash fantasy kind of game, and it was worth me playing and enjoying. But and that's it, guys. That's my top 10 favorites. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Catch you later.